Just heard I was patient 0, so we're going on a trip. Let's go. Woo! World tour. So there's a boat. Yes, that one, the floating petri dish. 175 people on board and a disease. It's not a Royal Caribbean cruise, okay? It's not Carnival Corporations with an oversized water slide on board. It's actually a really cool expedition cruise for only 30,000 euros. Who's in? No? Okay. For some spare change of only 30,000 euros, it takes you to places that most humans will never see in their lifetime. And unfortunately, the last places that some passengers had seen in theirs cut short as a result of a deadly disease. But the World Health Organization looks at this situation and goes, low risk, calm down. The experts looked and said, calm down. The epidemiologists and the virologists and everybody who dedicated their entire lives to studying this kind of thing looked and said, calm down. And still, there's somebody that knows better. There's somebody that knows better on the internet.
Hantavirus will spread.
In the UK!
We are not doing it.
Where the Hantavirus?
Deadly virus! You can use the deadly Hantavirus!
It absolutely will get worse.
Comments and comments and comments of panic and misinformation and disinformation and malformation. Disaster. The internet is in turmoil. Decades-old data presented as breaking news. Guy on your For You page is telling you to panic buy. Go, go, go!
I start to watch out for if the Hantavirus becomes a pandemic.
Before this next pandemic hits and you stay behind. No!
Start stock just fell off a cliff.
Don't stay behind for this next pandemic.
The Hantavirus. Here are 2 stocks.
It's been decided. Mainstream media brings on a woman who'd survived Hantavirus 15 years ago. So not from now? But y'all said this was a pandemic. You looked at her and said, you do realize how lucky you are to be alive.
By the way, there's a it's a pretty high fatality rate from this virus. You're lucky you survived it.
What are you doing? What are you trying to do? Look, the deaths on that ship are real, okay? The concern is very legitimate, but the scale of the public reaction is completely disproportionate to what the experts and the health organizations are telling us. And that gap between what science says and what people are feeling is not random. That gap is being deliberately engineered by people who know how COVID left us, okay, and how to profit from it. It's intentional and very irrational, and that might be the most dangerous bit about this entire manipulation. It's not even the panic. It's those people that are waist deep in misinformation, okay, that are taking those fake maps and those fake counts and those fake data into the experts' comments section, and they go, well then, explain this. Explain what, babe? Explain what? It's false. They're using manufactured panic as a weapon against actual knowledge.
I've seen a ton of experts claim that
3 people died on that boat in the Atlantic. Okay, this video is not about the virus. It's about misinformation spreading faster than this virus ever could, okay? And nobody's talking about that outbreak. It's everywhere on TikTok, Twitter, everywhere I look. Let me tell you what actually happened, because I promise you this story is as it is, without anyone needing to fabricate anything. The MV Honduras, not a regular cruise ship. This is a polar expedition vessel, okay? It's something out of the books. Folks posting memes referencing the Titanic, hoping that it would hit an iceberg. Surprise! This ship is an ice-breaking ship. It's ice-breaking capable. This is the kind of ship that takes scientists, wildlife photographers, bird watchers, people with 30,000 euros lying around, to the most remote places on Earth. And on April Fool's Day, I feel like that's kind of crazy, but on April 1st of 2026, the Honduras departs from Ushuaia, Argentina, the southernmost city in the world. On board, 175 passengers and crew, more than 20 nationalities, retirees, scientists, luxury travelers, and of course, important for this story, content creators throughout remote islands on the southern Atlantic, up the African coast, and eventually Europe. Weeks at sea, you guys, okay? In places where if something goes wrong, and I cannot stress this enough, there is no hospital around the corner, okay? One of the highlights of the trip is going to the remotest remote island in the world. So yeah, 5 days into the voyage, it's April 6th, and a 70-year-old Dutch passenger starts showing symptoms. Fever, muscle pain, headaches, respiratory discomfort. His name was Leo Skilperoer, and he was an ornithologist, a zoologist who specializes in birds, a bird watcher. Before he boarded the ship, he'd spent 4 months with his wife all over Latin America, Argentina, Uruguay, Chile on these birdwatching excursions, including, according to Argentine health investigators, a visit to a waste disposal site near Ushuaia. Now, before you go, who goes to a dump on a luxury holiday? Birdwatchers go where birds go. This is not weird behavior, I fear, for an ornithologist. And birds, as it turns out, are sometimes near landfills. But guess what? So are rats, which are oftentimes hosts to some gnarly diseases.
Outbreak of a rare and deadly virus.
Hantavirus is an RNA virus, okay? 3-segmented genome, negative sense, single-stranded, and yes, the distinction between RNA versus DNA does matter because people online are using it to scare you.
We know the Hantavirus isn't very good at spreading, right? But it is an RNA virus, which means it's much more likely to mutate than, say, like a DNA virus like influenza.
Mutated
Mutated one.
Very rapidly mutating virus.
They are lying to you about Hantavirus. Absolutely deadly virus.
RNA viruses mutate way faster than DNA viruses. That bit is true. So when people online say, well, it's an RNA virus, it could mutate into something more transmissible, they're not making that up. That is real biology. But they're leaving something out. Hantaviruses sit somewhere between measles and influenza in terms of their mutation tolerance. Like measles, hantaviruses appear to be under fairly strong purifying selection. So their glycoproteins, their nucleocapsid proteins, their polymerase, they're structurally constrained, okay? Which means mutations reduce fitness. So, you know, basically, this virus has a very specific shape it's got to maintain to function. And most mutations break that shape. And a broken virus is a dead virus. Most of the time, in fact, 99% of the time, okay, mutations are either insignificant or they make the virus non-viable. So think of it like this. Influenza's like baking cookies. You add a bit too much sugar. You forget the vanilla. You switch up the butter for oil. You know what you still get? You still get cookies. Maybe not perfect cookies, but they're still cookies. The recipe's forgiving, you know, mistakes are survivable. Hantavirus is like making fugu, the Japanese pufferfish, one of the most lethal foods on the planet, also a delicacy. Chefs need a special license just to touch it. This fish.
To pass the fugu preparation authorization test.
The margin of error is essentially 0. Too much of the wrong thing and you don't have dinner anymore. You have a death sentence. Don't improvise. Okay, just a little bit of it, no! Okay, every element has to be exactly right or the whole thing just falls apart. And that's what purifying selection means in plain English. This virus is a fugu recipe, and mutations are improvisation, and improvisation kills it. Often. The influenza is like the cookie recipe in that if you swap out half the ingredients, it still works, okay? That's why you get it every year. New flu season, hantavirus is more demanding. The pieces have to fit just right. Now, the mutation question that people are asking online is, could this become easily transmissible between humans like COVID? Mark Lipsitch, a professor of medicine and biology at Stanford, said that while this cruise ship outbreak does warrant attention, this virus has fundamental limitations. Hantavirus doesn't currently spread well enough between people for that to even be a plausible evolutionary path for it. And also, you know, evolutionarily, pathogens with the greatest sort of pandemic potential often allow for people to be mobile and socially connected during that infectious period. COVID-19 could spread before symptom onset, you guys, and from people with mild or very, you know, minimally symptomatic infections. And that makes containment very difficult. Hantavirus is the opposite. And a lethal virus hurts itself by not spreading well enough because of its mortality rate. And the gene sequencing from this last outbreak shows that
The virus has not mutated significantly to make it more transmissible.
When they compared these sequences to known Andes virus strains, they closely matched sequences from human cases in Argentina going back to 1997 and 2018.
So, same virus, known strain, new mutation, but no evidence of increased transmissibility. Experts are watching closely. No panicking. And that is the information that you gotta hold on to for now. No, but if that still has you on edge, panicking, consider this. This is what I think they should be putting on the news. They're not putting on the news. I feel like these numbers matter, but this Hantavirus had an outbreak 8 years ago. We didn't call that a pandemic then. The 2018-2019 Andes virus outbreak in Argentina. 34 confirmed cases. That's more than our current 8. By the way, the largest human-to-human cluster in history of the virus. And still, okay, back then, it had a median reproductive number of 2.12. Before they controlled it, then it became 0.96. The median reproductive number is basically a measure of disease transmissibility, okay? I don't want to bore you with the info, but I feel like it matters, okay? It's basically the answer to the question. If one person has this, how many other people are they going to give it to? And that 0.96 is a key number. Below 1, 0.96, means the disease dies out on its own. It's not infecting enough others. And that was the worst case scenario, okay? 2018, uncontrolled community outbreak before they even had the controls, before anybody knew what was going on. Proper protocols in place, bam, it's already below 1. For your reference, just so you know, seasonal flu is 2.2. How much do you think COVID was? They're comparing this to COVID. That scary map your For You page showed you all over Twitter right now, that's not showing you this outbreak spreading. It might be showing you, I don't know, every single case ever recorded about a virus that's always been there in rodents, in rural areas, infecting people every year. A small number of cases every year, relatively. But tying that map to the cruise ship and calling it breaking news, that's not journalism. That's not even like accidentally wrong. Y'all malicious. Y'all are malicious. It's incorrectly construed data that you're showing as evidence of something that it doesn't even show. But hantavirus is transmitted through rodents, okay? More specifically, saliva, droppings, urine. You don't need to touch a rat. You don't need to gulp, gulp, gulp their urine. You just need to inhale particles from a contaminated environment, like a waste disposal site near Ushuaia. And so investigators now believe that Leo and his wife may have been exposed before they even set foot on that ship. And unfortunately, on April 11th, 5 days after his symptoms had begun, Leo passes away on board the MV Honduras. At the time, the ship had been sailing near Tristan da Cunha, one of the most remote islands on Earth. Captain makes a speech.
This is my sad duty to inform you that one of our passengers sadly passed away last night.
The death is recorded as natural causes.
It was due to natural causes.
One elderly man, one death, no symptomatic passengers. The expedition continues.
Deadly virus outbreak that started on that cruise ship in the Atlantic.
Now, while all this is happening, we've got content creators on board. 3 of them who ended up telling the world what was happening on the MV Honduras, and they couldn't be more different than each other. First, Rui Senit, Turkish travel creator, specialized in luxury and expedition travel. He was the first to share the captain's speech, and he disembarks on St. Helena on the 24th of April. And away from the boat, he becomes the most critical voice on how this whole thing was handled. He felt the captain was reckless.
I wish the vessel's management had taken this problem more seriously from the very first death.
He said they should have never stopped at Tristan da Cunha because that was a remote island. You had a body on board.
They should have thought that it might be a contagious disease.
There are certain precautions to take when you're visiting a remote island that doesn't really have anybody, going there. What you could be exposing the people of that island to in terms of pathogens. He didn't like that normal group activities were taking place as if nothing had happened. And then there's Qasim Hato, who is still on board, and Qasim is calm.
ثانياً الوضع على السفينة هادئ جداً.
Suspiciously calm, some would say. He's posting stories from inside the ship.
إن جدول يومي مثل أي رحلة ولكن مع الحفاظ على المسافة.
Showing people going about their day, having the time of their lives. It's all chill, Somebody died on this boat? On this boat? No. His message is basically, I don't understand what the news is saying. Because we cool here. Now, either, Qasim is genuinely unbothered, which is fine. He's living a strange reality right now that I wouldn't be able to put myself in. Or the cruise company asks crew members not to speak to the media, and Qasim, being a hosted content creator, may have had reasons to project calm. They're handling this phenomenally. Some people allege his entire trip was like a brand partnership, and now he's on a damage control sort of media campaigns. These are just the realities that are existing simultaneously on the ship. That's what people are alleging. And then there's Jake. Jake is not calm.
And what's happening right now is very real for all of us here. We're not just a story. We're not just headlines.
You guys, he's not calm. 2 weeks ago, Jake was posting beautiful expedition content. He was happy, excited, living his best life as he should on a 30,000 euro cruise. Watching him sort of have fun on the trip, and then how fast everything had derailed. It's kind of crazy. It really puts things into perspective. Wow, life. 1 second someone's on vacation, the next. It's pretty crazy. But back to the ship. By April 24th, the Honduras arrives at St. Helena. Leo's body is taken off the ship 2 weeks after his death, and his 69-year-old widow disembarks to accompany him home. Somewhere between 30 and 40 passengers also disembark here, among them the Turkish travel content creator from 12 different countries, you guys. Here's the detail that matters. They disembark before contact tracing begins. They go home to their countries before anyone knows what is actually on the ship.
Lo ha confirmado. Primer positivo por Hantavirus.
April 25th, Leo's wife, now widow, boards KLM flight KL592 in Johannesburg, bound for Amsterdam. She's on the plane for 45 minutes before staff notices that she's seriously unwell. She's removed from the aircraft before takeoff and joins her late husband's fate in a South African hospital the same day. And may they both rest in peace. Test results come back. It's Hantavirus. So at this point, we know. This is the moment the alarm bells go off, okay? Because now it's not an elderly man who just passed from natural causes. Now it's his wife too, who likely caught something off him, who was on a KLM flight, who sat next to people, whose body walked through an airport. And 30 to 40 other passengers from that same ship have already scattered across the globe. The investigation explodes. By May 4th, gene sequencing confirms the strain, the Andes variant. And this is where things get a little bit complicated. Most hantaviruses, almost all hantaviruses, okay, are not transmissible human to human. You get them from rodents, full stop. The Andes variant, this one, is the one known exception. It can spread between people, but wait, okay? It's not like airborne like COVID is. Now, unlike measles or COVID, which linger in the air after an infected person leaves a room, the Andes variant requires really close contact. You gotta be sleeping on top of each other, sharing food, prolonged proximity, with somebody. You gotta be living in very close quarters for weeks. The way people were on the ship. Remember the 2018 Argentina outbreak? 34 cases, 11 deaths. 80 hospital staff were technically exposed. None caught the virus. As of May 8th, 8 confirmed and probable cases, 3 deaths, 140 people under monitoring. The ship still at sea.
Hantavirus está oficialmente en nuestro país.
So the ship needs to dock somewhere. The passengers need to go home. Vacation's over, guys. Vacation's over. I mean, if your family was on that boat, you'd like for them to be monitored. In your own city's hospital. You want them home. That seems like it would be straightforward, but nobody wants this damn boat near them.
I mean this in the most respectful, humane way possible, but them people gotta stay on that ship.
Stay on that boat.
Stay on that fucking boat.
Stay on the boat.
Keep them on that boat. Stay on the boat.
They're gonna have to stay on that boat.
I'd rather play Battleship than let them get off that fucking boat.
Let that boat dock.
Stay on that boat. We reject you.
Everybody's like, every single port is just...
We reject you.
Yeah, they did not want these people off the boat. Disgusted by people's inhumanity. Jake posted a video, visibly distressed, crying, asking people to remember that the passengers on the ship are human beings.
We're not just headlines. We're people.
They have families. They are scared.
People with families.
And Jake is right. Okay, they are human beings. They have families, and they are scared. But everybody off the boat has got families too, Jake. And they're also scared, you know?
All we want right now is to get home.
Jake wants to go home. Home is a feeling. It's not a place. Let's make the boat feel like home for a bit, you know, until we figure out what's going on. You know, that's fair. We want to see our families. Do they want to see you? That's horrible. I mean, nobody wanted this boat, and it wasn't inhumane per se, okay? It was, I would say, reasonable to allow the people on this luxury expedition cruise to quarantine in it, right? And sort of tend to their needs that way. I don't see why that would be a bad idea, honestly. But it's not that, you know, straightforward. The remotest islands in the world are not equipped with the necessary infrastructure to support this kind of situation. Not even, you know, Cape Verde, where the ship was anchored.
Cape Verde refused to let the ship dock because of the virus.
They just didn't have the infrastructure required for the scale of this kind of, you know, evacuation plan. Sail to Spain, the Canary Islands, Tenerife specifically. A controlled disembarkation. Passengers straight to the airport, no contact with the local population. Fernando Clavijo, the president of the Canary Islands, said, and I quote, "Screw your plan. He cannot allow the Hondias to enter the Canaries."
El gobierno de Canarias no va a autorizar el fondeo del buque.
Tenerife was like, y'all, we love you, okay? But from far, okay? We care about you. No. Just stay where you are. Stay where you are. Thoughts and prayers. They said, thoughts and prayers. Now, is this fear like entirely unreasonable? No. You know, the Canary Islands depend heavily on tourism. The COVID trauma is real. Okay, I'm gonna come back to that. And they watched what COVID did to them. But then Spain's central government, with its consistent humanitarian positions, overruled him, citing, and this is beautifully worded, international law and humanitarian principles. The ship was coming to Tenerife. It's coming. May 10th, 5:30 a.m. local time. The day I'm filming this video, the MV Honduras arrives at the port of Granadillo. The Spanish health minister calls the disembarkation unprecedented.
This operation is an unprecedented operation.
So for those saying, have we learned nothing from COVID? Hold on. Just shut your mouth. Okay, unprecedented.
What do you mean they let the people off the boat? Hello? They were supposed to row the boat gently the fuck away from us.
Passengers were off in small groups via Zodiac boats straight to the airport, okay? No, you don't get bathroom breaks. Go sit your ass down at your window seat. Go sit. Straight onto the repatriation flights. Okay, the luggage is still on the boat, and the ship then sails to Rotterdam with the crew for continued monitoring. That's the story. This is what actually happened, and then there's what your For You page told you happened.
Brits on board the Hantavirus hit.
Let's start with the reaction that I actually understand, because I feel like it's important to be, you know, honest about this. You know, a lot of people saw the news about the ship and their first immediate reaction was, stay on the boat. They asked them to take one for the team, all right? And look, I get it. Okay, I genuinely get it, because nobody wants a repeat of 2020. Nobody wants to be in the country that let the infected passengers in, and now everybody's caught something. That fear, I guess I could say I understand. The COVID PTSD is real, okay? That wariness is real. And wanting people to sort of quarantine on a ship that has everything that they need and more to survive until the situation is clearer, you know, that's not an unreasonable instinct. The MV Honduras is a luxury expedition vessel, you know? Folks got Wi-Fi, food, medical personnel on board, the full attention of the WHO and governments.
23 countries are involved in this operation.
This was not, you know, a lifeboat adrift, okay? You know, staying on a bougie boat for a few extra weeks until the situation is like genuinely assessed, like even medically, is not like the worst idea. Then there's the other side of the whole stay on the boat discourse. The memes, oh boy. Okay, some of them were funny. Okay, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you, you know, I didn't laugh at this. Y'all are funny. You guys are funny. You guys are funny. You're funny, okay? You funny. But you know when somebody makes a dark joke about something dark and we're all laughing until somebody says something that's a little bit, you know, you for real, or your psychosis is showing, okay? You're showing tendencies. You are. You know, I'm thinking if I had family on that boat, how much of this would be funny? Honestly, a few would, but then many wouldn't.
You all online who are saying you should just blow up our ship, please stop.
But humor's like one way people deal with crisis, right? And it's my personal favorite way, if I'm being honest. I'm not gonna claim that you're out of touch or you're insensitive or apathetic or inhumane if you joke for making jokes, because that's not true. However, humor is not the only way that people are dealing with this. Many go the opposite direction. Fear-mongering.
This is Jake Russmiran. He is a passenger on the cruise ship that is plagued with the Hantavirus. This is Jake Russmiran. He is a passenger on the cruise ship that is plagued with the Hantavirus.
Maps started circulating, you know, showing Hantavirus taking over the world. Red zones, infection hotspots. It's like you're playing Plague Inc. You know, that game? Visual language of a global pandemic.
They are preparing the people for another pandemic with this new Hantavirus.
People are sharing these maps everywhere.
Governments around the world are spreading the Hantavirus. That's what's coming. Hantavirus, global lockdown, nuclear war. And it's too late to do anything about it.
Comment sections, coded tweets, TikTok as proof that the authorities
are lying to you.
And it's a lot worse than you think. While the experts, the epidemiologists, the virologists, the WHO, the CDC are all actively telling you.
But what is the risk of this Hantavirus spreading widely in your view?
Overall, the risk is quite low.
This is a contained cluster. The global risk is low. This does not have pandemic potential. People on the internet.
Here's one for you. Hanta. Hanta means scam, bogus, rubbish, nonsense, fake, BS. That is literally what the word means. And then Hantavirus.
Bestie, inform yourself. Okay, a simple search and you can see there's 8 confirmed and suspected cases.
There could be more cases, of course,
I'm
because
not like downplaying the situation. Okay, I just think they're upplaying it, you know, and why? Why cause panic? You know, hantavirus has existed since like the 50s at least, and it is endemic in parts of the Americas. I think there's about like 30-ish cases every year in the US. These maps, they're not showing you the Honduras cruise outbreak. They may be showing you every single case recorded in modern history. So somebody took what could be a 50-year, I don't know, data set, posted it next to a headline about the cruise, and millions of people concluded the pandemic had already begun. Calm down. You know, this is the part that genuinely scares me, you know, because these people, armed with their map, go over to the comment section of actual virologists, epidemiologists who are trying to explain, you know, the real situation. And they use the map as refutation to whatever info you have. We'll explain this then. It's already begun. They're pointing at what could be, I don't know, decades of historical data as though the authorities, the professionals are hiding something. For some reason, people love to pit scientists and doctors as the them, you know?
They're fucking lying.
They're lying to us.
They are lying to you about Hantavirus.
As the other. There's your team and theirs. They're just trying to, they're out to get you. Why are they out to? Who's out to get you, babe? No, babe, you don't have a team, okay? It's just you and your tinfoil hat. We have reached a point where misinformation is not just being consumed, okay? It's being weaponized against the people trying to correct it. It's like a crazy feedback loop. You know, this one guy in the comments section of a doctor went on this whole tangent about how bird shit is now transmitting this virus around, how it is a life or death, so you don't know what you're talking about. And it's also radioactive, by the way. He had a hunch. What, bro? All right, whatever. And then there's, you know, Ethan Invests and other investors, of course, telling you, you know, which stocks to watch out for when the pandemic hits. Don't be left behind. Don't get screwed over again, they said. Let me tell you how you can make money off of it. Like, while people are genuinely scared, while families are waiting for news about their loved ones on that ship, 3 dead, someone opened up their phone and thought, content opportunity.
Is there going to be a hantavirus pandemic? Polymarket currently says.
Yeah.
Congratulations if you took the trade over on Polymarket.
It's capitalism hellscape. Don't get left behind this time. Let's make money. They want you to panic because they want to buy the dip. Well, there's Wesley here. Canada, third case. UK, third case. Who confirming 159? Whoa! Who's who? Say who confirmed? Who confirmed 159 cases? Because it wasn't my who. And then he pulls up this tweet from 2022 predicting that the 2023 COVID ends with, whoa, here's somebody. Whoa, he's onto something. He's onto something. Somebody on Twitter said. Someone on Twitter said. You know, he presents it as evidence somebody saw this coming. So, you know, I don't know. Wesley either found this data from an entirely different context and he just got really confused. Maybe he saw an annual like hantavirus surveillance data set, or he just completely made it up. Either way, you know, he's posted it to thousands of people as breaking news on this specific outbreak and people ate it up. Now, did Wesley do this because he genuinely believed it? Maybe. Did he do it because fear gets engagement and engagement is currency on TikTok? Absolutely, also maybe. This is tier 1, the clout merchants, let's call them. They don't know they're lying necessarily. Maybe they're just really bad at like reading data and very good at packaging panic for an algorithm that rewards it. And then there's this lady who sarcastically takes a jab at those telling you not to fearmonger. What do you mean, don't fearmonger? Of course we should, she said.
Look, you do not need to panic. Yes, the mortality rate can be up to 50%.
The mortality rate is a real number.
Yes, they were let off the cruise ship without proper quarantine. Yes, it can incubate for up to 8 weeks before you know you have it.
The incubation period is a real number.
Yes, it is confirmed to be the version that goes person to person and not just rat to human.
The person-to-person transmission is also real. It's a bit misleading, but...
Yes, the United States is no longer a member of the World Health Organization.
The US and the WHO situation is also real.
But the important thing right now is not to fearmonger.
And so she rebelliously fearmongers. Everything she said is true to a certain extent, yes. This is not misinformation. This is malinformation. It's a lot more sophisticated than misinformation. This is selectively true information arranged to produce a false conclusion. It's manufactured panic. She's telling you to fearmonger.
The important thing right now is not to fearmonger.
The way the list is assembled and presented to you as a list of suppressed truths that the authorities don't want you to connect creates an impression that's a little bit, I don't know, divorced from reality. I get the whole like distrust of the authorities, but we pushing it.
Debbie, you think you were infected.
And then there's the one that really got me. The mainstream news that acts a lot like a tabloid.
A dream vacation turning into a floating nightmare.
You know, more like a sensationalist, a Marvel comic book, it feels sometimes.
The looming question, could this become the next pandemic?
You know, a legitimate media outlet with a studio.
The deadly Hantavirus is no longer contained to that cruise ship. It is now literally flying around the world.
The host and the graphics and all the apparatus of credibility.
Debbie, you think you were infected when you went into your chicken coop for a few minutes one morning.
Sat down with a woman who survived the hantavirus. Like from right now? No, not recently. Not from this outbreak. 15 years ago, which in its own way debunks the whole pandemic allegation. But this outlet does not want to frame it that way. No, they wanted to come off more like a Marvel movie, okay? So they had her speak about how she flatlined twice. Her story is pretty, you know,
flatlined at the hospital twice.
Shocking. Like, I feel for her. It was the worst experience of her life. She barely made it. Months of recovery. All of it very horrific, very real. I have nothing but sympathy for her. And what she went through. Like, ma'am, you are a survivor. But after she was done telling her story, you know, you'd think the host would say, wow, you know, you're incredible. Glad you survived it. You were able to share this story here with us today. No. The host looks at her and says,
by the way, there's it's a pretty high fatality rate from this virus. You're lucky you survived it.
Something with such a high mortality. You do realize how lucky you are, right? You realize how lucky you are. Okay, yeah. Like, what agenda are you trying to get to here? Are you trying to imply that we're all about to have our luck tested soon too? Are you trying to plant fear in the hearts of the viewers considering the recent developments with the boat? She is speaking to the lady, yes, but she's speaking to you when she said that, you know? And then the host looks at the lady again and goes, how do you feel now, knowing that there is a new outbreak?
And I can't imagine what it's like for you now reading that there's this outbreak of this hantavirus, having been through hell and back with the virus yourself.
After you've been through hell and back. Hantavirus did not go anywhere. It has been endemic in the Americas for decades. The lady you're talking to survived it 15 years ago. It infects hundreds of people every year. These 8 cases.
A total of 10 cases of hantavirus have been reported, including the 3 deaths in connection with the deadly outbreak on a cruise ship.
Broke the internet. They made headlines because there is a story. It's like a movie. A cruise ship. And people mysteriously passing away at every other remote stop. 8 people on a cruise ship contracted this disease from what investigators are saying was one exposure, you know. That is a cluster. It is a tragedy for the people involved, yes. But that framing, you know, the whole you're lucky, you're so lucky you survived. Do you know that? And how do you feel about this new outbreak? You know, it does something very specific to the audience, right? You know, it implies dormancy. It implies emergence. It implies that something that was sleeping, something terrible, has woken up, sleeping 15 years ago, maybe when she'd caught it. And that is the language of pandemic. Deliberate or not, well, I think it's deliberate, but it's dressed in the costume of journalism, you know? This is tier 3. And tier 3 is the most dangerous because it's got the costume of legitimacy. This is a media outlet. Right? It's not a random TikTok with a fake map or a Twitter thread. If a tweet said 3,000 people just died from, you know, you're probably going to consider that disinformation. But this is subtle. It's very subtle. When a news anchor in a studio asks a survivor about how she feels about the return of a new outbreak, your brain files that differently. There's also this one guy I saw who brought out this article talking about how Moderna was making vaccines for the hantavirus before this outbreak. Oh my God. Oh my God. They made vaccines for diseases? Is that what the scientists, what the doctors did? They made vaccines for diseases? I'm appalled by this news. Well, yes, sir. This wasn't born at the outbreak, this disease, okay? He's implying that they created the disease, you know, they were preparing vaccines before because they were going to make some money out of it. I get that distrust, I get it, but this is just stupid. You know, we're being stupid now. I want to ask you something. Why did this story spread the way it did? Remember 2018? That outbreak? That was way worse. Why did 8 cases, 8 confirmed and suspected cases on a cruise ship somewhere in the Atlantic, something actively managed by the WHO and multiple governments, why did that produce stock market predictions, fake maps, and mainstream media survivor interviews? You know, comment sections telling people to sink the ship. Like, why was this story so sensationalized? Maybe COVID broke something in us. 6 years ago, the world watched a virus move from just a handful of cases to a global catastrophe in a matter of weeks. You know, we watched governments say, don't worry, it's under control. It wasn't. We watched millions of people die, but experts did warn about a potential pandemic, you know, since MERS, since SARS. They did warn about COVID, and the COVID response on a pandemic standard was, you know, arguably a mixture of successes and terrible failures. A lot of people were unhappy with the way it was handled. Virus is in the breaking news again.
Virus.
The virus.
The virus.
Hantavirus.
Virus.
Hanta.
Virus. The virus.
Virus. The virus. The virus.
Hantavirus.
The virus. The virus. Virus.
And you hear, don't worry. Calm down. Risk is low. You know, a part of your brain, that part that learned something from 2020 goes, I'm not gonna let this screw me over again. You know, that's trauma. Yeah, that instinct, I feel, is understandable. Certain people know how to exploit it. That trauma, the algorithm knows that fear keeps you scrolling too. And the news channels know that putting a survivor on TV and telling them, you do realize how lucky you are, gets a lot more views than actually having a scientist on explaining what our values are. The stock guy knows that panic makes people want to do something. Buying something is doing something. A financial wave they can ride and exploit. But the point of this video was to tell you that there is a gap between what science is telling you and what people are feeling. And that gap is not accidental. That gap, I feel, is engineered. And we kind of walk into it because we're psychologically primed to do so. But I have to be very clear about something before I wrap up. I'm not telling you not to take health threats seriously. That's what you're walking away with after all this. And I'm not telling you that experts are always right or that authorities always tell us the full truth. COVID taught us that institutions fail and communication matters, and the public has every right to ask the hard questions. What I'm trying to say is there's a big difference between asking the hard questions and taking a God knows what data set map into a virologist's comment section and going, explain this! That's not the mic drop you thought it was, okay? One was critical thinking. The other is using someone's misinformation as a shield against actual knowledge. You know, media literacy is not about trusting everything. It's about being able to read what you're being shown. Who made this? What is this data that's collected? When was it collected? What is the source? What is this person trying to make me feel, and why? And when you can answer these questions, that stocks guy, it's not gonna work on you. The news, you're lucky you survived. You do realize it's not gonna work on you. You're gonna find it odd, you know? That map is not gonna work on you. First thing you're gonna ask is this true? And the people who profit from your panic lose their product.
This is not a pandemic. Experts say this virus is very different.
Now here's what I think. I think the people on board the MV Hondias deserved better than what the internet gave them. They were probably in a very scary place, you know, and they deserved better information, more accurate information about their situation. You know, they deserved empathy without conditions. They didn't put themselves there. And all of them were voluntarily ready to quarantine, right? Those memes about, you know, the first thing you do when you're ill is take a world tour. No, like that wasn't what they were intent on doing. They deserve not to become the protagonists of this global panic that has nothing to do with them and everything to do with, I feel, our collective unresolved trauma from an actual pandemic 6 years ago. But the good news, which is an important note to end this video on, is the response worked so far. You know, the WHO coordinated, Spain stepped up, you know, 22 countries sent evacuation aircraft. Medical teams were routinely boarding the ship. The epidemiologists investigated, and this outbreak did not become a pandemic, despite not having the potential to. And I predict, personally, I think this is gonna disappear in a month max, 2 months max. But I guarantee the conspiracy theories will not disappear in a month. While the viral outbreak might die out, the fear-mongering and the misinformation outbreak won't. I feel like that's an outbreak worthy of concern as well. You know, while one plagues the body, I feel the other plagues the mind, right? So, yeah. What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below, guys. I just thought a lot of like shit that I thought I had to come on here and say like, what the fuck are you guys on about, you know? I just want to like, a lot of people online sometimes. Yeah. What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below, guys. Share your thoughts in the comments. There's a lot of crazy people out there, and I might actually be crazy. I might be the crazy one. Oh, there's a conspiracy theory for you. Where all the crazy ones, they were right. I don't know. I've sat here for so long, I'm losing my mind. So I'm gonna like, yeah, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going on a trip. We're going on a trip. That's right. Let's go. Let's go. Where are we going? Where are we going?